It's easy to sort observations in a dataset with the sortC function. There are two required arguments, x and by. The x argument is set equal to the variable to be sorted. Typically, it is a variable that identifies cases by name. The by argument is set equal to the sorting criteria, which is whatever variable you're using to rank or order the cases. The sortC function has some standard optional arguments. With sortC, you have options to specify the dataset name and whether you want to print the sorted table of cases to an HTML file in your working directory. The function also has some unique optional arguments. I will show you how to use the optional arguments named then by, descending, limit, and confirm in this video. To see how to use the sortC function, let's work through some examples together. Let me show you a basic usage of the sortC function. The only thing I did before the video started was to run the library RCPA3 command to get the R Companion to Political Analysis 3 package loaded. As always, you can run the command help and the name of the function, like help sortC, to see the technical documentation about a function. And I'm going to call that up and leave it on the screen here so we can look at it as we work through the function, our sortC function. So to use it, obviously we'll type the name, and then there are two required arguments, ID and by. So the ID variable, our ID argument, is set equal to the variable that identifies or names the cases you want sorted. So for example, if you were doing an analysis of the states and wanted to sort the states on some criteria, you would pick a variable like state that names the states. And just by way of mention, this function sortC is intended to produce like top 10 lists or top 5 lists of cases sorted on different criteria. So it's for a situation where the cases themselves are named and interesting, like states in the United States or countries in the world, or with other data sets you can imagine like counties within a state. But some data sets, like our survey data sets in the package, like the NES, the individuals in the NES aren't personally identified. They just have like a ID identification number for survey purposes, but their actual name and address and stuff like that is taken out of the survey. So it wouldn't be all that interesting to sort and identify like the top 10 respondents, some criteria on the NES, because all it would say is, the top respondents are respondent 610 and 414. You don't know who they are, so it's not very interesting. So it's really for small data sets like the states data set that identify the cases by name, and then they're interesting to study. So the first argument, which we've already supplied, is ID, and the second is by. And the by is the variable that the sorting criteria. Like for example, if I wanted to create a list of states based on their voter turnout, I could say sort the states by states $VEP20.turnout, which is the voting eligible population turnout in the 2020 election. So let's take a look at the results. Okay, we get a little message here for our sorted case level information. It says the sorted table has 50 rows. Do we want to see them all? Let's live on the edge here and say yes. It just says we can, if you want to further limit the number of rows from 50 or less, you can enter a number now or Q to cancel this search entirely, or any other key to continue. So Y is another key. So we'll see. So it is returned this table of states sorted in descending values of voter turnout. So I can see from our list here that in the 2020 election, Minnesota had the highest turnout, followed by Colorado, Maine, Wisconsin, and so on down to the 50th turnout in the state of Oklahoma. So that's the basic use of the sortC function, and I'll show you in a minute how we can do some other interesting and useful things with sortC. So I'm looking at this table I created of states sorted in descending order of voter turnout in the 2020 election. I did that by using this sortC function call, and now I want to show you some ways I can use optional arguments to change the results that I get. So one thing we can do, it was sort of alluded to already in the warning I got, or the notice I got when executing the sortC function, was to limit the number of rows or cases reported. So it's got 50 here, which might be a lot if I wanted to copy the results into a table or put them into a presentation. So this argument named limit allows me to limit the number of cases displayed to a more manageable number. So say I wanted to create a top 5 list of states with the 5 highest voter turnouts in the 2020 election. I would add limit equals 5, and I can see just those 5 now, and that's a little bit maybe more manageable and convenient. Now this shows the states with the highest levels of voter turnout. I can flip that around using this descending argument, and by default you can see that descending is true, and I can change it to false. So do not display it in descending order, which means it should display it in ascending order. So I see now a top 5 list of least voter turnout. Oklahoma, Arkansas, Hawaii, West Virginia, and Tennessee make the cut on that list. Now to show you this then by argument, I want to first change I'm going to take the limit in descending off for now, and then change the initial criteria. I'm going to do it to voter ID law. So this is a ordinal level variable, and the sortC function can also sort cases by ordinal level variables. So this is in descending order of voter ID law. The kind of the ordering, direction of ordering of this ordinal level variable, the strictness of the voter ID requirements can be ordered, but it's not clear whether the ordering should be least restrictive to most restrictive or most restrictive to least restrictive. So this is starting with the least restrictive and ending with the most restrictive states. So you can see the group of states where no documents are required, going all the way up to a strict photo ID requirement. I wanted to mention now, we got that notice to confirm our results. If you don't want to see that all the time, it's just sort of a helpful reminder, but if you are working with this function repeatedly, it might start to be more of a hindrance than a help. So that's where this confirm argument comes into play. It's default to true, to ask you to confirm that you want to output all those results. If you don't want it to keep asking you that, you can just set confirm to false, and so it should create your table there and then just bypass that confirmation stage. Okay, so the thing about the voter ID, so you can sort by ordinal level variable like this voter ID law, but you can see that a bunch of states are tied on this ordering. So there are, many states that have no document required, and there are at least some states in each group. So the then by argument, you can see it as like a tiebreaker in a situation where you have usually like an ordinal level variable that ties many states. You could say sort by voter ID law first, then sort by states, and I'll use the variable I used before for voter turnout. So let's give this a run and see how it looks. So I'm going to sort first by voter ID law, and then by voter turnout in the 2020 election. So now I've got the table I wanted. It sorts first by voter ID law, and then among the groups that have the same voter ID law, sorts them in terms of their voter turnout. So of the states that have no document required, I can see that Minnesota has the highest voter turnout, followed by Maine, Oregon, New Jersey, Vermont, and it's continuing to do that, first sorting them by voter ID law, then with each tier of voter ID law, sorting the states by voter turnout. So it's a way of using two sorting criteria at the same time, the then by argument. And we just briefly, you'll notice that in the actual arguments it had a data argument as well as a printc argument, and those are going to work the same way that they do for all the other functions that have these arguments in the RCompanion package. You can, rather than write out the full name of the variable starting with the object or data set name, you can abbreviate that if you include the data name, using the data argument to name the data set. And similarly, the printc function is a standard argument where you can set it to true, printc equals true, if you want the table of results, like the table we're seeing here, printed to a HTML file in your working directory, which can be useful because it gives you a little bit of formatting that you can work with if you want to put the table into an article or a presentation.